Welcome to Toffee TV. It is the final word. I've had to drag Ped off his sick bed because nobody else wanted to speak about Everton today. He's not well. He's here.
I'm here. Sort of. I'm
He-
sort of here.
There's someone here. He's
Yeah.
not fully, but
Not
you know
fully,
what?
yeah, but
It's not a bad thing not being fully compass mentis about Everton at the moment.
No.
Another tough day. The biggest thing about this is, right, is that it isn't even about this game for me.
No. Of course.
Because we could have quite easily gone there with a really good team and played really well and got beat 3-0 because they are on a different level to us totally. And okay, we had the news that De Bruyne wasn't playing and Jack Grealish was out. Phil Foden was doubtful, although you knew for a fact he was going to play. You see Gabriel Jesus, who loves a goal against Everton, on the bench, and you think, well, you know, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But let's have that straight before we do anything. They are miles better than us. They're in a different league. They play almost a different sport to what we do. And yet, I still feel like there's been something building. And it manifested again yesterday. Now, I know we've got huge injury problems, and that's a fact. And whether people like that or they don't like it, it is a fact that we've lost the spine of our team. And when you add in people like Andre Gomez, who's even he's a decent sub, I'm not saying he'd be in our team all the time. When you add him into the mix, we just simply can't cope with those kind of injuries because the squad isn't good enough. We can get onto that in a minute, but it's not really about the results, is it? Because we've lost to City the last 7 games before yesterday. That's 8 on the run now since we had the couple
To be
of
honest, I mean, I know it is dead easy to just like fob off the result and stuff, but I think there are ways of losing games. I think I heard the commentator say on the game yesterday about he said about Seamus Coleman being the only player left who'd actually beaten Manchester City, and we'd had like this proud record against Manchester City, which for a while, you know, they were the team that we could beat. Everywhere else it felt like we knife to a gunfight.
Yeah.
But that's the way it is now with Manchester City, and it is dead easy to dismiss going there and losing. But there's a manner though of losing games, and there's a manner of how you approach a game like this and how you set yourself up and the pride you take in doing what you can do. And listen, not many teams go there and get anything that are, you know, what we've seen last time, how Crystal Palace went there and sort of had a go at them. And they got the rewards. Now, that's not going to happen all the time, and certainly we don't have the players for that. But I do believe there is a and the reason why I brought up like the Seamus Coleman one was because Seamus Coleman being part, because that team, the team that went there year in, year out and got results, Cahill, James Coleman, Leighton Baines, Tim Howard, Arteta, you know, Jack Rodwell, Lescott, whoever, Phil Jagielka, Phil Neville. These players had something about them. They had a desire and a hunger to play for Everton and the shirt. And I just look at a game like yesterday, and I just think where we are now is like. By the way, let me just say I am absolutely terrified. Like I'm absolutely terrified because I genuinely believe this team has got absolutely no heart and no spirit about it. In fact, the whole club has got no heart, no spirit about it. It's soulless, and it's you know.
Well, we'll come back to that because I think that's.
Let's come back to the soulless thing of Everton Football Club.
The thing about it is that is a conversation we do need to have today. We will come back to that. Let's quickly skate through the game because there isn't that much for us to talk about with the game. To be honest, the manager went with the same starting 11 that began at home to Spurs. Obviously, we'd hoped after the international break that maybe Abdoulaye Doucouré would be fit. We hoped that Dominic Calvert-Lewin might be a little bit closer. Yerry Mina, we hoped to be available to play. None of them were. Andre Gomez still hasn't fully recovered from a calf injury. We've lost Tom, whether people like it or not, Tom Davies isn't even on the bench. He's injured as well. So the squad continually picking up injuries. But he went with the same kind of team, the same team as Spurs. And I don't know whether too many people would have disagreed with that starting 11 when you looked at it and gone, well, I'd play him or him. Because, you know, Gabaman might have come in midfield, but then Gordon would have dropped out, and Gordon deserves to play at the moment. So I think that was okay. Yeah. And you know what? The opening 40 seconds was fine. We got it. We got forward. Gordon had a shot that got blocked. We were the better team for 40 seconds.
Hey.
That can't be disputed.
That can't be disputed.
But you just said something there in your opening gambit, and it's right. There's a way in which you lose a game of football. Now, I've seen a lot of people question the players in terms of like running around and stuff yesterday, their effort. I don't think the effort, for me, I don't think the effort was necessarily lacking. Yeah, I think they tried to stick to some kind of game plan of like making it difficult for City to pass through us. And you might argue that for 44 minutes it was working. But when we got the ball, we looked pathetic with the ball. And these are, I've seen a lot of people dispute this, but these are Premier League footballers. And yet we looked terrified when we had hold of the ball. Everybody. There was only, I think, Andros Townsend who showed anything for me. In the game.
What's really worrying is that, like, I've heard Rafa Benitez come out after a couple of games now and say, you know, that's not how we've set up. That's not what we've looked at. We weren't brave on the counter attack. We offered very little, and he's come out and saying that. So his game plan is, defensively, the game plan was quite sound. People stuck to the jobs.
That's what I mean.
But I think their first goal, right, is a massive indication of what we got wrong yesterday. People lauding that ball, right? I'm not being funny. I could play that pass.
Oh, I don't know. No.
I'm telling you right now, right? I'm telling you right now.
I've seen you in the kitchen trying to bend it.
Right,
you can't kick at the outside of your foot.
What I mean is, right? What I mean is that he probably does that every week in training, like every day in training. He's a professional footballer.
And a very good
one, right? Full of confidence. Of course, they're going to try things. They probably do stuff like that in training. Can you imagine people like Kevin De Bruyne and people like that in Manchester City's training? They probably like knocking balls off walls and you know, like doing all kinds of magical stuff. And he's just picked the ball up yesterday, and nobody has gone near him.
No one closed him down.
And all he has to do, it looks like an amazing pass, and I'm not taking anything away from it, but the point being, he's a top-class player. Top-class players can... No, when they go, people go, oh, you want to see what he does in training? Now, think about when they talk about people like a Wobie. You want to see what he does in training? Manchester City have got the kind of players who do that in a normal game. And all he's done there is bent a ball into space, and Sleepy Keane, because that's his new nickname, by the way, Sleepy Keane, is just gone... Oh, and Sterling just went off the back of him, and he's in space, and it's a half-decent finish. It's a bit fluky, but it's a half-decent finish. But if you got your whole our midfield are standing on the 18 line on the edge of the box, it's like, if one of you had gone to done something there, he'd have to have cut in, and then he's got no time to play that ball. It changes everything. And that, to me, is the indication of this football team is, like, the managers give you instructions and you are almost playing it to the absolute letter. There's no bravery. There's no bravery, and there's no one going, right, listen, that fella over there, he's got 10 yards of space. One of us is going to have to close him down. And then what happens afterwards is there's no investigation. There's no going, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why didn't you get over to him and just stop? And where is everyone go, oh, I mean, that's amazing. I look at our team and go, no. And that, to me, is just the biggest indication of where our team is that everyone wants to just stand back and let someone else do it. And then when they stand back, and then go, boss goal, what a goal.
I mean, it was okay. I understand what you said. It was a great goal. It was a great ball by Cancelo, and Sterling's finished it. He hasn't... The thing I was watching on the zone was like, oh, he lets it run across his body and he aims it into the top corner. He doesn't. He just makes sure he gets a contact on it on a half volley, which is what you do. And it angles into the top corner. It's a nice finish. It's a lovely pass. But you do have to look at it from our perspective. from their perspective, if Everton score that goal, we're lauding it today. We're lauding whoever plays that pass, right? Know what I'm saying?
I'm lauding if a ball bounces off someone's arse and goes in today.
No, that's what I'm saying. So if that's us, we'd be going, what a goal, right? But we have to look at it from our perspective because we've conceded it. The first ball...
Hang on, just let me spin that round. Do you think if Pep Guardiola concedes a goal like that, he's lauding it? Or is Pep Guardiola absolutely ripping the arse out of
that's
it?
That's what I'm saying. And we don't know whether Rafa Benitez...
Oh, no, I'm not having a go, Rafa Benitez.
He come out at the end, and when they said about the first goal, he was kind of like, yeah, but we didn't put pressure on it, or we didn't do this. That's how you have to look at it. That's come from a ball in which we've half cleared that goes out, and Sterling runs. Luca Dean's got 2 players when that ball's played. Michael Keane doesn't know where he is. But if you go back through the game, there was one after about 15 minutes where Foden headed it wide and Seamus Coleman was marking him. And Seamus Coleman ran in front of him and stood in front and left Foden on his own. And then Coleman went like that as if to go, oh yeah, it was my man. And like, watching it with my dad, and I'm like, what is it? And my dad's like, I know, but it was a good ball. I was like, no, what? Mark your man. If you 1v1, mark your man. Yeah. At least make it difficult, because if you make the contract difficult, he heads it wide. We just go to sleep.
This isn't like the Manchester City when you're playing against them must be murder.
Yeah,
because they are
brilliant.
They play false number 9s. They switch positions. They stay really. Like, I watched them against Manchester United, and there was a lot made of like Jack Grealish not playing. Well, the reason Jack Grealish didn't play is because they just stuck someone out. Jack Grealish, probably why he's not being blamed for them, is doesn't do what the manager wants him to, which is just give them basically just stretch the pitch across. And they were amazing against Manchester United because they just got loads of joy, and they did with us yesterday. They just kept on having the wide man and then the fullback having 2 all the time and then coming in. And it must cause murder because people mustn't know who to follow up. And I understand that and I appreciate that. And there was a few times, like there was a head steering at the header that just went wide from a Foden cross. Pickford one that come out and he headed onto the bar. There was loads. You have to get lucky a lot of times. But that particular goal, I don't see where. See, the defence is standing on the edge of the box, but the midfield are a disgrace. They really are a disgrace. That to me is basic. That to me is Sunday League stuff off. There's a fella over there.
Did you put more blame on someone not closing down Cancelo or Michael Keane?
No, Michael Keane is Michael Keane, and he's been the ball is a brilliant ball. Of course, it's a brilliant ball. It goes inside, and Michael Keane is he can't react because he's just too slow. And Sterling because Sterling, again, insane and every day. That ball's probably getting away.
It's easier to go that way.
Why isn't somebody getting out to Cancelo and just to put pressure on him? Like, that's your one job. Like, Alan, Delph, whoever,
Gordon,
that's your job.
Iwobi or
any of them, just one of them going over to him and putting a bit of pressure on him and just stopping him. There's no way on earth. Like, you could take Man City's most attack-minded player, and in position there, he is not letting that pass come through. It could be Sterling, it could be Jack Grealish if it was playing, it could be Kevin De Bruyne. They are drilled to death to not let that happen. There's no way on earth a Manchester City player or a Liverpool player or a Chelsea player near the top ones would ever allow that ball, and that's why they're the best teams. Not because of what they do at the other end, it's because of that. It's because I watched a bit of Chelsea versus Leicester. Every single Chelsea player is bang, 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 bang. You've watched Liverpool this season, it's every time the opposition gets the ball, it's 2 over, and you're not getting through. You're not coming through us. It's what other teams.
And it will happen in certain games because those teams aren't.
Don't you think that's just the most basic thing in the world?
It is, but what I'm saying is that will happen. You will penetrate these teams because Crystal Palace did the other week. You'll have your moments. What we're saying here is before anyone turns around and just go, you're just talking about, breaking a game down, one game against the best team. This has happened a lot.
And
this is why we're talking about it. We're not talking about it. If Everton had been like perfect in most games, and this happened, you just go one of them days we weren't sharp enough, or they were better. Because you'll have Everton will lose football matches, no matter who they are, against better teams until Everton are the very best team in the league. And then, guess what? They'll still lose games. And they might lose games then because they're just not on it. Do you know what I mean? But
Everton will
this happens a lot.
But this is what I'm saying. Everton will concede goals to very average teams because they don't do that. Listen,
no, that's what I'm saying. I was just clarifying that point.
Look at the second goal, right? The second goal is
Toffee and Delph's fault.
Alan just kicks the ball out like a kid. But don't get me wrong, like, it's a sensational strike.
Oh, it's a wonderful strike.
And of course, but
Delph pulls out.
But that's what I'm saying.
It's a 50-50, and he pulls out of it.
It's like, yeah, it's a worldie, but
that's a great goal.
That's what'll happen when you play sides like that. That mightn't happen if you play, a Brentford or whoever. That's what'll happen. But it's the same thing. It's like, why are we giving the ball away so cheaply? And this is what I'm saying. It for me, looking at the game, I just see players who don't have any desire and hunger. And when it's that easy to go, it's Manchester City, it's fine, But I look at that, especially that first goal. The second goal I've got a little bit of thing for because it's just such a good strike. But that first goal, I can't sit here and go, well, that was an amazing. It's not.
Well, it's not from our perspective.
There's not a chance on earth.
Yeah, but
a decent side would allow that to happen.
I was like that with the second goal.
No, I agree.
Because Delph jogs out, and even if he throws a tackle, like slides, Rodri's then got to take a touch to bypass him, do you know what I mean? And then line the shot up. Then if he hits it in, but Delph pulls out. So Rodri, it's a tremendous strike, don't get me wrong, it's a worldie. But it's a worldie because our player doesn't want it enough.
No.
Whereas other players would have wanted it, wouldn't he? People would go in. Do you think, would Rodri have pulled out the other end? If that was running out to Delph, not a chance. Would he have pulled out to that? Not a chance. Would that Cole Palmer have pulled out? No, because the kid was everywhere. It's that kind of thing. And Delph looks like I'm not saying he can't be bothered, but he just looked like he didn't believe he could win the tackle. And yet, if he'd have just thrown himself into it, even if he concedes a free kick, it's central 35 yards out. If they put it top corner, what can you do? Don't get me wrong, once Rodri gets there, it's a wonderful strike. It really is. He hits it like a rocker. Pickford can't do nothing about it. And it was game over. It was game over at 1-0, if we're being honest. But it was sealed, signed and delivered there. But back to the first half. Obviously, any hope Everton had of catching him on the break was gone after 15 minutes when Damari Gray limped off to yet another injury that Everton have had. And once you see him go down when he'd gone on that run, hadn't he, where it looked like he might get a shot away.
Well, he actually caused it himself. He actually caused the injury himself by the looks of it. Because, again, it's actually belief, I think. I've watched it, and I don't think he had the belief that he could beat the full Walker. I don't think he had the belief.
He hesitates for a shot.
He keeps on twisting back, and it's like listen, it could happen any time, but it's actually the belief. I think again, it's that's confidence. I would imagine.
Well, we saw. I mean, he went off, and you kind of go. And you know what annoyed me about Iwobi, right?
I mean,
from
how long have we got?
Yeah, this could be the whole show. But when he was coming on, he looked like you when you walked in before. Yeah. He looked like he just had to drag himself to the side of the pitch. He had this he was like this. Yeah. And he was like looking like, he didn't look like, get me on, 0-0, get me on, I'm going to show you that I should have been starting this game. He looked like he couldn't be asked. I'm not saying he couldn't, it's just that demeanour. And then he come on, and he run around a bit, and a little bit at the start. But he had that moment where he done really well. He got away from Kyle Walker. I thought he's in on goal. He was running, and he slowed down.
He's actually in.
Because what you just said, he didn't believe he could hold Walker off, so he turned back. No. You're like, run across him so he cannot touch you.
He was actually in.
And he was in on goal.
It was 0-0, and he was in. And anyone with a brain there just gets in front of Walker.
Like Zaha did a couple of weeks ago against.
You just get in front of him and you stay in front of him. And if contact comes, you take the contact and he's off. And that's it. And he didn't have the belief. He didn't have the belief that he was quick enough. So he just...
And yet he'd already left him.
He'd gone. He was away. It was away. It was absolutely. But again, that shows. I don't even. That's not confidence, but it's partly confidence. But it's bravery. He's a coward. He's a coward. It's as simple as that.
Remember Rom's goal there? We ended up losing the game, so it didn't matter. But Rom's goal there, where he knocked it past the thing, just left them cut in and knocked it under the keeper. It was that he'd done the hard bit. He was away. So if he runs across Kyle Walker, Walker's got to give it the I can't touch you. You're still away, and then you send someone.
And then see what happens.
See what happens. And he was running, and I actually got, I don't know why, but I sat forward as if, oh, he might score. And then I just could not believe why he put the brakes on.
Because he's a coward. He's like so many of these players, they're cowards. They've got nothing about them.
There's no belief in them. That's what it is.
But that's cowardness then, isn't it? If you're a footballer.
He's an international footballer.
You're a footballer. Like, you don't. What do you think is? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? That you go 1-on-1 with the keeper. He might make a save. You might miss it. That's just
be brave. Yeah.
Be brave. Like, you've got the keeper one. You could easily have the keeper. You could get one of these sent off. You could change the direction of the game. We could go 1-0 up and defend for our lives. And
they've got to score 2. Then to beat you.
You know, and whatever happens. But if you don't, that's cowardness.
Yeah, and that was the moment I just thought, there's no belief. There's no belief. No matter what the manager does and sets you up, if you can't carry out, these aren't an under-10 team, right? Where you listen to the manager and you do what he's. The professional footballers for a reason. We could play against them, not get near them. So why can't we get near them? Because they're obviously good footballers. So when you're at that top level, why, when you're on a pitch with peers, whether they're better than you or not, why can't you express yourself?
Put it this way, right? If Everton, let's say this weekend was the 3rd round of the FA Cup, and Everton got drawn away to somewhere like Stockport or something like that.
Yeah.
Everyone would say, this is an upset. Put it on the telly, because this is going to be upset, because Everton will go there and they'll be nervous, and the opposition will fancy it, and they'll probably go 1-0 up, and Everton, that will be it. And that's the way I certainly look at the team at the moment. I look at it like a bunch of players who don't fancy any kind of situation, because there's no bravery. There's nobody willing to stand up. There's no leader. There's no leader.
No, there isn't a leader.
There's no leader anywhere. You've got a few like people who will walk around and growl, like Alan, but it's nonsense. You've got Seamus Coleman who's just not he's a leader in terms of like. No, I don't know.
I think for Coleman, I think he wants to do it.
No.
And he obviously hates him. But you've got to be able to.
You've got a lot of players looking after their own game, reputation, whatever. And then you've got other players like Luca Dean who are being completely stifled. It doesn't matter what you say about Luca Dean, right, in terms of anything. If the lad's not allowed to push up the wing, then what's the point? We might as well.
But again, there's no discipline there, though, is there?
We might as well.
If he goes, no one fills in.
No, I'm saying, but he doesn't, though. He doesn't go. The manager's clearly told him, don't go past the halfway line. So you're cutting the legs off one of the top 5 left-backs in Europe, statistically. This is a lad who had a dossier compiled to get a new contract.
No, I know.
Do you know what I mean?
So is this on Benitez?
That's on Benitez.
Yeah.
That's on Benitez. So what Benitez has said there is, I want to play a counter-attacking style. So that means I've got Gray, I've got Gordon, and I've got Townsend, and I've got Richarlison up front, and all the rest of you is just going to have to back them up. And by doing that, you've basically cut off your best asset, one of your best assets. And instead of saying, go with him, I trust you, go with him.
Probably doesn't trust the others to cover, that's why.
And now we've got a lot of players now who are just looking after their own games. And I don't know how we get out of it, because
we go in 1-0 down. So the plan's very much like Manchester United at Old Trafford. We stayed in the game. We played better at Old Trafford, don't get me wrong. But they scored a minute before half-time, didn't they? And it was the same yesterday. Sterling puts them 1 up. But we came out at Old Trafford Probably because they're nowhere near as good as City. But we had a belief we could get something. And even when they brought Ronaldo on and Pogba, we still had the belief that we'd get something out the game. People didn't go, oh God, Sancho come on. It wasn't like, oh, it's over. The players, we might have been sitting there thinking, oh my God, look at these three coming on. But we carried on doing what we were doing and we got our rewards and we should have won the game. Whereas yesterday, we come out for the second half. We couldn't, Richarlison getting the cob on after 20 minutes, getting himself booked stupidly because he didn't get a free kick earlier on. That's got to go. You've got to be calm all the time when you're playing up front, and he wasn't. He lost his head, and then he was a waste of time for us there. He done nothing. Absolutely nothing. We couldn't support him either. It was difficult. And yeah, I looked around the pitch for even a 2-0 when Delph's pulled out of that tackle and it ended up in the top corner. I looked around the pitch for who's really having a go here. Gordon was trying, but he was too slow getting shots away because they were pressing quickly. So he's got to quicken his decision making up. But he's really come on. So I'm not going to dig him out too much. The only other one that gave me any kind of thing of like, that's what I expect was Andros Townsend, who was everywhere. Alan went missing. When you want someone to get hold of the football and be brave in possession, how many times did him and Delph lose 50-50s? Because they were like hesitating. There was Delph 3 times in the first half on the edge of our box. Ended up turning, stretching and just giving it away. There was only times and that kept going. The manager then brought, we've all seen the picture, haven't we? What sums Everton up? Delph off, Rondon on. Rondon come on. If he touched the ball 3 times, he
just at once.
Was it once?
No, once.
There you go. He flicked one back, didn't he? We offered nothing.
He was on the pitch for 25 minutes.
No, well, we know. Listen, keep waiting for him to get up to speed, and maybe he's just never going to do it. But we didn't even go right. Well, hang on, we've got 2 up front now, right? Change the game plan. Just knock it long, and let's try and get up the pitch a little bit and squeeze them a little bit. There was no change of direction, and they end up getting a third. Pickford made a save that could have been 3-0, but that was too easy. You get a third, which was massively fortuitous. Yeah. But why is Michael Keane jumping up in the air, turning his back on a shot? And Bernardo Silva just runs in behind him and taps it in, and Keane does that thing of like, it's another one. I don't want me centre-halves doing it. I want me centre-halves fuming that they're conceding. I felt sorry for Pickford. Because even though he was a little bit erratic early on, I'm thinking...
But how many passes did he have to deal with, though?
Yeah.
The ball just kept on going back
to him. Knocking it back. So, we've got big injuries, and that does...
Well, apparently Gray's out for 6 weeks.
Really?
So that's the entire Christmas.
So that's it, January.
That's the chance. So the amount of games. So it's not even. It's like 8 games, isn't it? It's like the worst time to get. This is like the worst time to get an injury.
Yeah, because if you'd have got it in October, you're missing 3 games, aren't you? Yeah.
And he essentially everything goes.
Yeah,
through him.
He's our thing, isn't he?
The tactics will have to be completely rejigged till Dom comes back.
They're gonna have to go. They're gonna have to move to like a 4-3-3 or something. Have 3 centre midfield if you can find 3, aren't you? You're gonna have to, because that we can't. Gordon and Townsend are okay, but suppose if when Dom's back, you've got Townsend, Richarlison and Dom as a 3, haven't you? Which is okay, but Gray's that little sparkle, isn't he? But we were comfortably beaten, and I said to my dad watching it, we spent nearly £500 million over 5 years, whatever it is, and we gone to the Etihad like a newly promoted team, trying to hang on and stay 0-0 for as long as possible and hope to nick a goal.
Not even like a newly promoted team. No, newly promoted teams have a stupidity about them that gives them.
Well, you know what I mean? Like
I know.
Or like Burnley, saying that's. I'm trying not to be disrespectful. They've not got a lot of money to spend, and Dice does what he does. But that's how we went out.
No, I said the same thing yesterday. I was watching it and thinking the same thing. You can say you can say anything about Manchester City, and talk about there was somehow I think Gary Neville was just kissing their ass all day. I don't know why. Talking about how amazing they are and how they've developed the football club and having that kid up front for them, and then bringing that other kid on, who without being disrespectful, but both of them in the space of 5 minutes just looked a million times better than Anthony Gordon. you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a horrible way. What I mean is it's just like, got on, there's so much freedom. They're playing,
Confidence, playing
understanding
in a good
the
side.
role, playing in a good side. With Anthony Gordon, I watched Anthony Gordon play for the 21s, and I know it's a different level, but he played off the left, and he just had this free, just had like a freedom about him. He knew exactly what he had to do. Cut in, and every time getting on the right foot and having it a ding, or just putting it inside. For us, it's extra second, taking too long.
Taking too long. Yeah.
But he, you know, Gary Neville was just like, this club's amazing what they've done and the players they've brought through, and you know, he was talking about how, you know, players are given time and 6 months to bed in, and at first a lot of people criticised the signings, oh, they're not good enough, and you look at like Rodri yesterday,
Rodri, they criticised, Cancelo was criticised,
and it's like having that eye for a player and understanding them, and they all know how to play, and you look at us, and
it's a mess.
It's a fundamental. It's honest to God, right? If it was a normal business, our business would have been liquidated by now, because it's so poorly run and it's so badly managed at every level, and it can't be overstated how, like, for £500 million, right, you'd expect foundations, like genuine like I literally I just think to myself, why couldn't we have got David Moyes back? I just literally sit around thinking, why couldn't we have got David Moyes back? Because there's no way on earth a man like David Moyes, and people might go, oh, whatever, but there's no way a man like David Moyes would allow a football club to have drifted and be rudderless like we are, and like we have been for a while. And there's just no way that would have been allowed with a man like that. Now, the problem with Rafa Benitez is that he's coming to it right at the end point where nobody's going to support him. If he raises his head above, you know, no one's going to back him. You see it every day on social media. Fans don't want him. Oddly given, like, it's like he's the symptom. He's not the cause. Like, he's the cold sweats of the illness. He's nothing to do with what goes on at this club. Is absolutely rotten to the core. £500 million, probably more. And you've got players on the pitch who can't pass. You've got players on the pitch who can't get forward. You've got players you haven't got a bench. You've got kids sitting on the bench who are nowhere near. You've given a 3-year contract to a lad who is never going to make... Ellis Sims is never going to make it at Everton Football Club. He's never going to make it, Baz. You've read the reports. You've listened to the fellas.
But he's gone. He has improved.
But he's never going to make it.
But would he have offered more than Rondon yesterday?
I don't know. But my point being is he's not this up and coming. I'm not having a go at him. What I'm saying is they're protecting the asset. Because the asset was going to walk out the door for nothing. They've given him a 3-year contract. He barely plays. He's never fit. You've got players playing for the under-23s who are nowhere near the level. It's not their fault, but they're nowhere near the level because we had a load of kids before them who were nowhere near the level, but they were all like 22, 23, who've all gone to no-mark clubs. It's an absolute mess. And I honestly just look at it and think, it's not about being like, oh, you know, we'll get out of this because we'll get players back and we'll get players fit. Will we get players fit? I don't know. I look at Dominic Calvert-Lewin and I'll be genuinely honest with you. I don't see that lad coming back this season properly. That injury is a very particular injury. And I don't know whether he'll come back to that same kind of level that he was at. And I look at the midfield and I think they need some major surgery in there. Yerry Mina. Jesus Christ, we're lost without Yerry Mina, a player who can't play games of football, who can't string games of football together. And you're asking Decore, Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Yerry Mina, by the way, to come back in his place where we'll be playing every 3 days once we get into December. Once Sunday, we're playing every 3 games, basically, 3 days, aren't we? Yeah. Basically, till the week before Christmas. I think I think the week before Christmas is the only time we get like a week off.
And then we've got 3 games.
And then we've got 3 games. So you're asking players to come in. Like, this is going to get worse before it gets better. And I don't know if it's going to get... I don't know how far down we're going to be by the time we get a chance to react.
To breathe.
There's talk of, yes, there might be money available, but then you put a lot of pressure on the second half of the season. But honestly, even if we survive this season, there's no guarantees. The squad is so bad. Like, this is like what I was trying to stress at the beginning of the season. It's so bad. Like, you only have to, you scratch the surface, and you're relying on people like Delph. Like, like, who is the most soulless footballer I think I've ever seen in my life. It can't be stressed. No matter what, like, sort of position we finish in this season, it can't be stressed enough how soulless this football club is. Like, truly soulless. Like, there's nothing. There's no like guidance start. Do you know what I mean? Like,
no.
When we had Ken Wright in charge, who I despised as an owner, and I despise him as a chairman. Now, I'm not asked about saying that. The man offers zero. But you had like David Moyes running the ship. That was the thing you knew.
And we had the excuse. We didn't have money.
Yeah, we didn't have money.
So we were all in
it. Now we've got a fella who owns the club who hasn't got a clue about football. Like, I'd put Ned in charge of the football club before I'd let him run it, honestly. Then you've got people underneath him. The person underneath him is loyal to Bill. Bill hasn't got a clue. Then you've got Brands, who clearly doesn't understand English football. No. Like, clearly doesn't understand that if you fill your squad with 6'2", 14 stone athletes, you're going to get in the top 6, because that's what West Ham are.
That's all it is, yeah.
You've got an under-23s with the fella who runs it, who's got 4 hats and just gets his mates in. And then you've got a manager who's despised by half the fan base because he's a Liverpool legend. Like, there's no symmetry. There's nothing adds up, does it? No. Nothing adds up. There's nothing that you can put together where you go, well, that'll equal that and that'll equal that. I'm just completely. I honestly sitting here think to myself, and then you've got the thing over there, which is going to be the best car park on the waterfront. Honestly, it is. Because once they fill it in, they ain't building it. They ain't building it if this keeps going. Because if things go the way I think they're going to go, you ain't going to build a ground like that in the Championship. And I know you don't think that, but I do.
No,
and that's going to be the best car at the moment. Okay. At the moment, it's the best beach, right? On the waterfront. It's going to be the best car park.
Okay. So I'll respond to that. Right. Luckily for Everton, there's half a dozen teams.
I wouldn't say half a dozen, Baz.
I would. I've seen someone, a Sky fella, we'll just leave it that without naming him.
Ben!
Lord and Leeds.
It's fair enough.
Because they had to go at Tottenham, and they lost, and they are 4th and bottom, and they are awful. But he said, without a couple of players, well, yeah, Everton got 6 out. So there is this thing that people do seem to forget, is that we have got some of our best players missing. It's Liverpool were given every excuse under the sun last season for not winning the league because they had a centre-back missing and he got a couple of injuries. It was the reason. Oh no, the thing, he did this, did that, did the other. Because of him, they'd have done this. Well, we're nowhere near their level, but the players we've got out are massively important to Everton. But that being said, right, like you said, regardless of where Everton finish, Everton could finish 9th, 8th, right? It won't change a thing with the rest of the football club. Just like the ground, which will be built, won't change a thing. If you don't get the other stuff right, having a boss stadium doesn't mean anything. It means absolutely nothing. You've got to, somewhere along the line, for Everton to do anything, someone has got to care enough to take the club by the scruff of the neck and give it some direction. There's no direction. There's no communication. We've got an owner who is in bloody Monaco or Saint-Tropez or doing whatever, who doesn't say a word anymore. Like he's bored. We've got Bill Kenwright. I don't know why he's still at the club as a chairman. Why isn't he just a life president or something? Why is he the chairman? We've got the board, to me, just is not fit for purpose because there's no direction with it. There's no the football club's got no direction. I've seen someone said to me today about Marcel Brands. It's not his fault. Just let him get on with running the club. Said it a million times. If I'm Marcel Brands and I'm trying to do things to get this club going forward, and you keep stopping me, or you over there keep stopping me, or the owner picks the phone up to his best mate who's an agent and he goes, I'll get you this player. And I'm going, we don't want that player. And he's going to do it. I ain't signing a new contract. Not any time, because I can walk. He could have walked into a few other jobs this summer, Brands, no issue. We've paid him a ton of money as well. He could have waltzed into another job quite easily. So why is it, if he's not allowed to run the club, why is he signed a new contract? Right? So if he signed a new contract, that tells me he's kind of happy with what's going on. So I'm looking at it, and this isn't all on Marcel Brands. Not at all. This is the recruitment team. Some of them have been there for ages. So some of them have put this squad together with Brands. Greta, who was, what does he do? How come we've got a situation where our squad is filled with players who can't compete? And yet I see lads coming out the Championship who playing for Premier League teams who are up and down and all over them, getting tackles in. But Leeds are the biggest thing. Like Leeds, to me, I look at Leeds United, and individually, Calvin Phillips, great player, really does well. Rafinha, lovely footballer, great left foot. Bamford's done really well one season this year. He's, whatever, right? But those three, Jack Harrison is a thingy. You look at them and go, they've got other players like Luke Ayling. Now, would Luke Ayling have been on everyone's list as a right back? No, the lad plays every week. He's up and down. You look at Leeds and go, there's a handful of players there who people probably wouldn't have been interested in. But they battle and they scrap and they fight. Moyes done it for years with us. Pick you out the Championship, we'll have you out the thingy, we'll have you. Everton don't have a baseline. They don't have a baseline. 1 to 11, when everybody is fit, they're a decent side, right? But with Everton and everyone aren't fit, and are we ever going to have everyone fit? No.
But then that goes back to what I said right at the beginning of.
And then you've got, and then you've got the club saying, like I'd said the week before when someone asked me, oh, the AGM, I was like, it'll be online. There's no way they're sitting in front of people. Everything's going the other way. And they've announced it's online, which is a joke, because they need to be in front of people.
We'll talk about that in another video.
It's all of that.
No, but that's what I mean. It goes back to what I said before about the teams that Everton used to regularly take to Manchester City and win. And they were full of those kind of players. They were full of players who the manager instilled this pride. And I'm not having a go at the manager, but he instilled this pride. He knew what he was buying. He was buying the same kind of player, and he instilled that pride in them to play. You against the world, you're fighting against the world. You're all in this together. This is like, you come together and you will make this team. And it's gone. It's like, I mean, it's been gone for a while, don't get me wrong. It's not a new thing. But you've got players now who just clearly look after themselves. But that comes from inside the club. That comes from not having a manager who feels like he's got that kind of power to do that, to be able to assert himself. You've got people who are just looking after their own. There's a lot of people at Everton who are just clearly looking after their own side of things and not working together. And there's probably a lot of distrust in other people. And even though it's like, even though it feels like a lot of FC cozy, it also feels like there's a lot of people looking round, because people don't seem to work.
But how do we
change it?
Yeah, how do we change it? Because listen,
it's an ethos, isn't it?
People don't like Benitez, right? But if we were to sack Rafa Benitez, we probably have to pay another 15 million quid out, which hammers the FFP, so this player's gone. Who can we get in who's going to come in and unite everyone? Well, are people saying, let's get anyone in because it's better than having the next Liverpool manager? Does that really work? They're still going to have this set of players who have let us down. I don't know. I just don't know what we do, because it seems to me it's impossible to make the club the way we've made it. It's impossible when you've got money and resources, right? It's crazy to think you can't make a decent Premier League team. It's easy. It's easy to put a Premier League team together that can battle for a Europa League place. But it's a vision, isn't it?
It's a vision. It's a vision from the offset. It's a vision from the very beginning of understand. The simple fact is, the fella who runs the club does not know anything about football. No. He does not know.
Is he still interested?
He does not know anything about football. It's clear as day he doesn't know anything about football. So what he does is, like you said, he has made, like, I've read a thing over the weekend saying Keir Jordan had negotiated Richarlison's for Everton, had negotiated Richarlison's exit to PSG. And he also negotiated Mbappe, and he put all the things in line.
All the ducks are in place.
Hey, fuck off. Go as far away from our club as you can, and then fuck off a bit more, right? Because it's leeches like him who go, this fella's got all this money, I'll just hang around by him.
No, well, that's it.
A little bit will fall off,
Travel,
and I'll pick her up.
Move people through it.
And it's... So you've got a fella who doesn't understand football, who has people in his ear. And then he's tried to install a vision. Your first thing you've done is put a manager in charge that you weren't 100% sure of. And then you've give him a director of football that he doesn't want, who isn't actually a director of football. And then you've gone out and spent loads of money, and then you're off on the wrong foot. And then you've changed it halfway through, and then you've brought in managers after manager after manager. You've got a director of football you don't use. You've got other people you do use. You're getting pulled over here and over there and over there. Then you bring a big manager in, like Carlo, and then you bend to everything he wants, and you bring in people like James Rodriguez. Can you afford it? Doesn't matter, he wants it. And you're left in this... To me, we are like a box of leads. Electrical... You know, like when you go in that... Everyone has that box which is full of cables. You know what I mean? Yeah. And they're all just... And you don't... And you pick up one end and you look for the other end and you can't... That's what we're like. We're like this impossible Rubik's Cube.
But how do we fix it?
It has to start at the top. Fella at the top has to understand. He has to realise that is all... I know, but if the worst thing was to happen, right, the stadium doesn't happen, right? Let's just agree on that. Therefore, you've brought in a manager that you've sort of gone, we're putting Everton in mothballs for 3 years. That's what he basically decided when he brought Rafa Benitez. We're putting Everton in mothballs. They're going to finish mid-table. We're not asked. And we're going to just preserve the asset, and the stadium will get built, and it'll be great. And then in 3 years... we'll come back. We'll start all the engines up and everything will start again. And we'll have this stadium. And I can just go, Premier League team, well run, new stadium. Who's buying? Well, that ain't going to happen if he doesn't start getting some kind of interest in it. And that starts by putting people in charge. The people who run the club shouldn't be running a football club. They should not. Denise Barter-Baxter should not be running a Premier League football club. I'm not asked about anything to do with what she's done in the past or whatever. She should not be running a football club. The chairman shouldn't be Bill Kenwright. He shouldn't be anywhere near a football club. The people on the board just seem to be someone's mate or someone who done something years ago or someone else. It just needs to be blitzed, because if you haven't got people at the top who can see what's happening, then how is... You're talking about Marcel Brands. Well, Marcel Brands gets offered the contract because no one can see what's going on. Whether he's allowed to... Now, is he allowed to do his job? I don't know, but then that comes from above. It doesn't come from below. You know, then he oversees... Is he asked? Then he looks at the academy and goes, oh, yeah. So then we put someone in charge of the academy who's been there for years, who's been part of the failures. When we had opportunities to bring people from the outside, but we didn't, because that might have upset somebody. It's like, it has to come from the top. It has to.
You see, the likes of Denise Barrett-Baxendale might be all right with someone with experience. If you look, right, who's... She like might be really good at, like, she might be at like admin process and everything, that kind of like running. I don't know whether she's good or not. I just know she came from the charity to a Premier League football club. There's a huge difference between running a £1 billion, an industry, in a £1 billion industry, running a business. Who she got to go to for experience and advice. Now, okay, Bill Kenwright ran Everton for, what was the owner or whatever you want to call him, for years, in a time when the Premier League wasn't as big as what it is now as well, right? But his industry's theatre and doing that. Where's the business? So if you got, I don't know.
Ultimately,
if you got Terry Lee, right, say Terry Lee in as a chairman now, right? We need someone who's been involved. I'm just using him as a name. Come in, you ran Tesco's, business, this, that, and the other. It's still not a football club, by the way, but business. Then, and he was the chairman. Then at least she could go to someone who's been a CEO of a huge company that had lots of different things. Where's she getting her business? Where's she getting her development from?
Ultimately, right? And people might have different opinions on this, but they failed doing the jobs they're doing now. A lot of people before I might have gone, well, what did she used to do? I'm not asked what she used to do. She failed at doing this. She failed at running Everton Football Club because there's no leadership. There's the leadership group and all this. They're not taking Everton in. A football club, if you boil down a football club, right, so it's, forget about everything like sponsors and all stuff like that. A football club is, everything should be geared to win games of football, right? That's all that should matter.
Yeah, everyone forgets
that's what a football club's for. If you're doing well on the pitch, all these other things they just magically disappear. They just magically disappear. All your problems will just if you're doing well on the pitch. We're not doing well on the pitch and haven't done well on the pitch for a while. We're just always teetering. And so that has to be accountability. There has to be We've had how many managers have we had now in the last since?
About 6 in 5 years since Mashiri came.
So that has to be on him.
We had 2 in 14.
That has to be on him.
2 in 14.
Yeah. That has to be on him and the leadership group. That has to be. And now people will be calling for Benitez's head because this December will be horrific. It will be horrific. Because I say that just simply because I look at the squad and the amount of players we've got. Not because I think, we're going to get beat because we're terrible. I just look at the squad, and that's what I've always based it on. Is not the It's not necessarily the caliber of players. It's just the squad. The squad's horrific, and it's just we pick up injuries after injuries because players get played to death, and it's going to be horrific, and they'll have to make a decision. They'll probably pump for the easiest decision, which is to get rid of him if it is really, really bad. And then you start all over again, and it's like, no, that's on you. That's on you. And until one of them realises, or someone goes, I can't do this job, but the problem is, it's not a problem. While that stadium's getting built, they will think that everything is fine. And it's clearly not, because Everton Football Club spends all this money and they're in this position, and fans will dead simple, fans will stop going. Fans will stop going. And I know people say they won't, but what'll happen is people will keep their tickets, but they'll just stop going. They'll sell them, and they'll just stop going. And then if people are not going, money will be down and it looks bad, and you're trying to sell season tickets that are going to be more expensive.
That's the best thing. They come out with a thing if we're going to raise season ticket prices. Yeah. Because we need some more money. Well, we need more money because you're failing. If the team was any better, we'd get more by the team finishing 2 places higher than if you put £100 on everyone's season ticket. How the team finishes 2 places higher. It's not difficult. to put a team together to battle for Europe every year. I'm not even talking about getting in the top four. I'm not even talking about winning trophies. I'm talking about battling to finish 7th, which is an embarrassment for Everton Football Club. And when you look at days gone by, it's not now in recent times, but in days gone by, imagine saying, our aim is to finish 7th. It's an absolute joke. John Moores will be turning in his grave that, you know, we sack people for being 3rd in the league and things like that, you know, for not being good enough. And yet now, we've got something under our badge there which is just bollocks and needs stripping off because no one uses it. No one uses that. No one goes.
It's a bit harsh on Kazoo, that.
Kazoo was sound. At least they've had a go. You know what I mean? We've got a Latin strapline. That means nothing.
No,
you know,
mean anything.
It means nothing because people genuinely aren't. And I don't know. We're talking about changes at the top. I don't know how we do because if the owner's not interested, why is he going to change people on board level? If he doesn't start getting his hands dirty.
I know we've gone on and we will finish now.
Yeah.
But ultimately, as I've said, the owner, I think, and the people at the top have looked at this. I've looked at this season and the next 2 that come after it, and they've wrote them off. And
okay, well, you know, if you're going to write them off, fine, but at least give the manager a few players where you can achieve that.
No, I know, but
that's what it's about.
It feels.
No,
the
it does.
problem is that,
it does.
And it's a bit like the '98 season. Once you write something off, and you don't give the manager money,
goes to shit, yeah.
Then it will go. It will. You. All you're waiting for. Listen, if we hadn't had these injuries, we'd probably have about
be in the top 6.
Probably about 6 or 7 points more now.
Be in the top 6, comfortably.
Maybe more. But then, so what you're doing is you're basically you're skating on thin ice, aren't you? And what has happened?
You're playing on the edge.
What has happened is simply we've lost
key players,
3 or 4 of our most important players all at once. And like you said numerous times, and I agree with you, is nobody outside the top 3 can do that. But the problem is it's us. And when you look below that, it's and then you start chipping away.
Because if other teams are keeping it, if their players are somehow staying fit, then you are just falling.
And then because I don't know what you're doing is you're even in the so you come across teams who've got all their players and they might stay fit all season. Well, you're gonna be level, aren't you? And then you start chipping away at your other players, your Andre Gomez's, your Tom Davis's, players who might just add a little bit of energy or something different, or someone coming off the bench, and you just chipping away. And any squad that has all the players taken away from them are going to struggle. And but
that's where recruitment comes in.
That's recruitment.
Because if you then have lads who have got energy and they mightn't be the greatest players, and on the day when your squad's perfectly fit, right, they mightn't get in the team.
Well, now relying, right, on a player in midfield whose injury record is absolutely like, if I look at the internet now and it said I've been down south for 6 weeks, it wouldn't surprise me, wouldn't shock me.
No. He went down the first half yesterday and he got up holding his knee, and I was thinking, I thought he caught something, didn't he overstretch, and I was thinking, oh no.
But that's where we are right now. That's where we are.
A player who most fans want out the club in a few months.
And that's
and
where
he's
we
our
are.
linchpin in midfield.
And you're coming into
a busy period.
You're coming into the most... Well,
maybe someone like Onyango will get in and step up to the plate, and you know, and that's unfair on the kid that we're relying on him, but we're going to have to rely on him, because if Tom Davis is out got a knee problem, he could be out for 6 weeks if he's out.
Well, they're out for anyone who's out now for any length of time, is missing just a huge amount of games. And then that puts stress on everybody else, doesn't it?
Of course it does.
Because if you've got a game every 3 days...
So we're going to need... You might be ripping Ellis Sims, but we're going to need...
No, I'm not ripping him.
And the kid might come in and score a couple of goals.
I just think that's symptomatic of what the club is.
I think he's a goal scorer. I think we'll have to see whether he could do it at this level. But you see, in an ideal world for him, he'd be going on loan in the Championship from January to continue his development. And yet we're not in an ideal world.
Right, let's just look at the stats from the game.
Oh, there was a game?
Yeah, there was a game.
I mean, look at that. 17 attempts to 4 for Man City, 7 on target, 2 for Everton. Although one of them was an Andros Townsend free kick, when the other one was wasn't a very good attempt either. The free kick was all right. 5 big chances for City, none for Everton, unsurprisingly. 77% possession, not surprised. 853 passes, 246. None of those stats surprised me at all. You could have probably wrote them. Ned probably could have done that for us about 1 o'clock. You know, it's sad. It's sad the way it's gone. But
Very sad.
what can you do? What can you do? That's it. That's for us. They're just Groundhog Day and just hope on Sunday. You know, we got a front three on Sunday of Rondon, Iwobi and Gordon at Brentford. And Brentford aren't great, don't get me wrong. They've hit a little bit of a thing and they can see goals, but it's a big game for Everton and you have to get something from it. They have to win it, let's be honest, but they've got to get something from it. And then it's the derby and then it's Arsenal. So it doesn't get any easier, but what can you do? What can you do? So let us know what you think in the comments section below. We're going to be continuing this on Patreon now. Another bit of a moan, but thanks for watching. Give the video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't. See you later.